Welcome back, everyone. It is now getting closer to the official release date of Indiana Jones 5, The Dial of Destiny, on June 30th, something that a lot of fans around the world are not really all that excited about for multiple reasons. We've talked about this several times, about what happened behind the scenes between James Mangold, Harrison Ford, as well as Kathleen Kennedy and Phoebe Waller-Bridge, and how there was a lot of creative roadblocks that were happening between Kathy and James Mangold, etc. This is Mike Zero. Subscribe if you're new and like this video to see future Star Wars updates. I'm also on Twitter at Mike01. I thank you all so very much for the great and kind support. And without further ado, let's jump right into all of this. Now, we know that Kathleen Kennedy is still heavily working on shows like The Acolyte and Skeleton Crew, two major Star Wars projects, by the way, that are going through a rough patch right now between reshoots and rewrites and a lot of issues during post-production for The Acolyte specifically, given that it is going through a terrible marketing plan. We'll talk about that a little bit later on. But what's interesting about Indy 5 right now is exactly what's been going on with George Lucas specifically. Now, a lot of fans have been wondering, why was he not at the Cannes Film Festival world premiere, or whatever you want to call it, the premiere of Indy 5? And there's actually a lot to it over the reason as to why he did not make an appearance, and why he's also refusing to make any kind of an appearance at all through interviews or through any kind of promotional work for Indiana Jones 5. Let's dive into all of this. Now, on top of this, with George Lucas having a big clash with Disney and those at Lucasfilm recently over Indy 5, one of the big developments happening recently involves both Lucas and the Disney board surrounding Indy 5. One big update surrounding the Indy 5 backlash is that Lucas has been having a very big emotional response against Disney and what they have been allowing Kathleen Kennedy to do with the franchise, let alone the talks of an Indy 5 sequel moving forward. Lucas is described to have been involved in multiple heated arguments with many higher-ups over at Disney, including Bob Iger, after a recent meeting took place regarding George Lucas's involvement with Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni over the upcoming Star Wars TV shows to course-correct the Star Wars universe. Now, during these discussions, the subject of Indy 5 caught the rounds and began to ignite. Lucas is said to be so upset over the Indy 5 backlash from fans ahead of its release that it's causing Lucas to become more eager to get involved with more Star Wars projects that are being led by Jon and Dave. Now, with Lucas already set to take over parts of Lucasfilm, as in only some departments to help revive Star Wars in the wake of Bob Iger, realizing how much damage Kathleen Kennedy has done to it all, this is the main reason why Lucas did not appear at the Cannes Film Festival premiere. Now, let me pause here quick for a second. So, the backlash, or the premature backlash, whatever you want to call it, surrounding Indy 5 is really getting to George Lucas personally right now, to the point where it did create quite a number of arguments on their end over at Disney between themselves and George Lucas while they were discussing plans for him to take over specific departments of Lucasfilm. Now, we've talked about this too the past couple of weeks, that George is planned to become a big part of the Lucasfilm story group by 2024, and they are trying to make him the new head of the story group by then. This way they can find a great way to course correct the franchise, and they also really want to find ways to regulate Lucasfilm and eventually vanquish any of those that have been contributing to the Star Wars failure. So we know that Kathleen Kennedy has been struggling ever since then. Ever since, of course, what happened with the sequels to the Kenobi series and Boba Fett. This is why Season 2 of Boba Fett, by the way, was scrapped and completely axed, was because of all Kathleen Kennedy's wrongdoings with the overall franchise, and how it led to a lot of fan backlash. It's not a secret to them. They know about this backlash, and the same exact thing is now happening with Indy 5. And to be honest, I kind of find it quite crazy that there is even a sequel in the talks, and how Disney's even allowing those talks to happen. That too is getting to George Lucas now as well, by the way. But moving ahead from all of this, initially on top of that, he was reportedly in a state of such shame for what he believes the fans will blame him for selling Lucasfilm to Disney back in 2012, enabling this to all happen, that he just didn't want to show up at all. It's also due to the fact that Lucas wants nothing to do with Kathleen Kennedy. On the flip side, Steven Spielberg is described to love and rave about Indy 5 and even supports the Indy 5 sequel, already in the talks at Lucasfilm right now. Disney did want Lucas to actually take part in a series of interviews and promotional work, but broke down and wanted nothing to do with them for promoting Indy 5, as he feels it completely betrays his creation of the franchise and what it stood for. Now, I don't know about you guys, but I feel for George Lucas. I really do. I know some of you guys out there are going to blame Lucas, like, oh, it was his fault that he sold Lucasfilm to Disney and such, and how he trusted in Kathleen Kennedy, but you gotta remember, Kathleen Kennedy was never like this back in the day. She was a part of all these major franchises. Back to the Future, or even Indiana Jones. She was even in Temple of Doom. I don't know if you guys have been following my Twitter, but they actually had her put as a role in the Temple of Doom as one of the dancers, alright, in the beginning part of the movie. So, that, let alone, just goes to show you that George trusted Kathleen Kennedy because of how she was back then, and did not expect her to act in such a way that she acts like today. And when I look at Kathleen Kennedy, when you always see her in interviews, she's always reserved. She has this training to keep her composure, you know, when it comes to specific questions, but she's been losing it a little bit lately, and George Lucas has been getting very emotional over what she has done to Star Wars, what she has done to Indiana Jones, and this is exactly why we talked about in the last video that this is why Hollywood studios are turning away from Kathleen Kennedy and are using her as a textbook example of how to ruin a franchise effortlessly. So, look, this is the problem that I think is arising. Every single year, they are trying to pull off these agendas being thrown into these franchises, it backfires on them, and they just rinse and repeat. They can't keep on, doing that, because they're eventually going to go bankrupt if they keep doing this and pursuing these agendas. So now you have a lot of these studios beginning to realize and wake up, hey, we better do something amazing, we better do something that's going to cater to these fandoms. That's why Universal's doing their thing now. That's why, of course, you have Tom Cruise really nailing it with all of his movies like Mission Impossible and Top Gun Maverick. There's even talks of a third Maverick film in the works. So there's a lot of things happening at Hollywood to really turn the tide now, and to really just focus on the fans. And that's what I like about Tom Cruise, by the way. He himself even said, it's all about the fans, baby. It's all about the fans. And that's how Lucasfilm should think. That's really how their mindset should be. Yeah, but unfortunately, that's not the world that we live in right now. So George Lucas is dealing with this and getting very emotional, breaking down, losing it behind closed doors about what's been going on with Indy 5. And this all, like I said before, ignited when they were having these discussions about his involvement with John and Dave on future Star Wars shows. So anyways, guys, I would love to hear your input on all of this below in the comments, and if you guys did enjoy the content for today, make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel, and I will catch you guys next time.
Gun in hand, we are alone again. No, I'm not the one from night